Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Preview Show. As always, me and Adam will be going through all of Week 17's games. I don't know about you, but I am buzzing for this week. Week 17's just got a little bit more edge to it for me. Really excited. A lot of winning in or lose and you're out scenarios going on Week 17. So it's really, really looking forward to it. And always, Adam, you'll have all your betting needs for us throughout all of the games as well. One game in the books already. Dallas at Tennessee, 27-13 to Dallas. Pretty much what we thought, eh?
Bit of a dead game, wasn't it? Not a lot really going on. Kind of felt like Dallas always had it in hand a little bit. I know it got to 10-6, didn't it, at one point, I think. So, yeah, you spent a lot of time watching it then, I can tell. Yeah, I think it got to 10-6. And but you always felt like Dallas were going to run away with it. And turns out that Dobbs maybe not the best quarterback. But then if it's a choice of him or Willis, it's not good. So there you go.
I would definitely be rolling the dice with the rookie and just seeing if he can make progression.
Yeah, I mean, he's not done a lot though, has he? That's the problem.
He's upset a lot of the team with that pick, especially Tannehill. Yeah. So you kind of got to stick with it.
Oh yeah, you got to play him. Yeah, definitely. But it's not been great, and obviously they didn't need to win either, so it was kind of a dead game for him anyway. So yeah, don't know, not great.
As you've heard at the start of this, I'm excited for Week 17. Do you get the same buzz with it, or are you still just it's another week? I've got one more to go. I know your team are obviously still in the hunt as well. So,
we're kind of in the hunt. I wouldn't, get too excited yet. But yeah, it's a good week because obviously a lot of the season, what everyone's worked for, comes to an end, doesn't it? This week and next week. So I think there are some exciting matchups. Obviously, there's a few dead ones as well, where it's just a bit like these teams are either already qualified or they're already out, so it doesn't really matter that much to them. But yeah, there's some really good ones to look through, and hopefully we get some winners.
Well, let's start off with our first game. It's one of those dead games that you're on about. What a way to start. It's the Arizona Cardinals at the Atlanta Falcons. Good game for betting.
There's a few things in there. It's not great, I will admit, but there are a few things. For the Cardinals side, Colt McCoy's back, so that's definitely a plus point for DeAndre Hopkins. He's 8-5, so I think he's worth having a look at. James Conner as well is 13-10. Now Conner has pretty much been the offense all the time that McSorley's been there, but he's still going to be a massive part of it. So I think at 13-10 he is a good price. The Falcons are going up against the Cardinals defense that we have been saying for weeks has given up big time. Really like Tyler Algier at evens. He's kind of taken over, I feel, from Patterson a little bit. He's the one who's getting most of the reps. Even money, I think he's decent. And I like Drake. Drake London seems to be getting more involved since Desmond Ridder's been there. There seems to be a bit of a connection there. The last 3 weeks, he's had 12, 10, and 9 targets. I think there isn't really anyone else. And so because of that, I think that Ridder's going to keep going to London. He's 21-10, so it's quite a nice price for Drake London against a Cardinals defense who are tied 29th against passing touchdowns. Really like that. I think the Cardinals. Why was I going to say the Cardinals? I think the Falcons are probably going to win it. They're at home. I feel like they're not doing amazing, but I just feel like they've got a bit more of a run going and a bit more kind of willingness to want to play than what the Cardinals have at the moment. And so I think they'll nick it. They're -5.5. That might be a little bit too much, but I think it'll be tight, but I think the Falcons will win it.
Yeah, I think there is really nothing for the Cardinals to play for. The players that they've got on their team haven't overly got anything to play for. They're all cemented. They're all kind of veterans of that team. They're not really going anywhere. Whereas I feel the Falcons, I feel like the 2 rookies, three rookies, Ridder, Algier, and London will all still want to make their mark in their first season and still be going out and play until the final whistle of week 18. So I think there's just a bit more in it for them. I did say I liked prior to him coming into Team Ridder and London's matchup. I thought it would be good. It's a little bit like Ridder and Alec Pearce at Cincinnati, so I thought that would work quite well, and it looks like it has. And I do like how sneaky athletic Ridder is, and if there is odds on him to get a rushing touchdown, I think this will be the game that he could get it, because he's good with his legs, and you've already said Algiers almost evens to get in. So why can't the quarterback who's equally as athletic?
You're just obsessed with your quarterback sneaks. It's disgusting. Desmond Ridder is 11-4 anytime. If you are interested in that, or like running backs, obviously Cordero Patterson is there as well. He's 8-5, so he's a little bit bigger than what Algier is. But obviously Algier is kind of the main guy. Yeah, Ridder might. It doesn't happen very often, does it? But yeah, he may.
Well, he's one of more of those hybrid quarterbacks we saw coming out of college. So,
yeah.
It's always got the chance. So I would steer towards that one in my eyes. Next game up, there is a bit running on this one. It's the Bears out the Lions.
Yeah, so a much more interesting game, more exciting game. This one, the highest over underline for the whole week at 52. I do quite like the over, I must say. Even at 52, I think it's worth going at 10-11. The Bears have nothing to play for, to be honest, but they are up against a division rival, and they're not just going to want to give it away. So I think, as we've been saying for most of the time with the Bears, and we will probably say it again next week because they've got nothing else to do, it will be Justin Fields and David Montgomery. So Fields is even money, Montgomery is 11-10. I think both of these guys are worth having a look at, worth going for. The only other one, and the only reason I say this, is because the Lions are currently tied 25th when it comes up to giving passing touchdowns, and they haven't. I know they struggled against the run last week, but they have improved recently against the run. But the pass they are still pretty atrocious at. And so the one that is worth looking at is Cole Kmet at 13-5. He's really the only passing option that Fields has. So at 13-5, if you want to go at a slightly bigger price, Kmet is probably worth looking at against the Lions defense you can get at. On the Lions side, really like Jamal Williams for this. The Bears really struggle when it comes to going against the run. They're 32nd against rushing touchdowns. So we like Jamal Williams. He's 5-6, so he's short, but like him. You can't back Swift. You just can't back him now. Like, Dan Campbell is the devil for me and my fantasy team this year. It has been horrific. He's fully fit. Get the man out there, but he just won't. He just doesn't do it. And now there's another one, isn't there? Who's the other running back that they've got there? Justin Jackson. Yeah, Justin Jackson has been getting involved as well. And this is the problem. So it's really difficult. But the guy who's going to get the goal line work is Williams at 5-6. The Bears defense aren't as bad against the pass. Having said that, it is the Lions. They are at home. And Jared Goff just is so much better when he's at home. So Amon-Ra St. Brown at 20-21, I think he's worth having a look at. He's probably not my top choice, but I think he's definitely worth looking at. And then finally, on the Lions side, I do like DJ Chark. I think that he's looked good in the last few weeks. He's 7-4, so he's a bigger price. And like I say, at home with Goff, much more comfortable setting, I think he'll do well. I think the Lions win it, just purely because I think they've got more to play for. I know I said it's a divisional game and the Bears will be up for it because of that, but I just think that the Lions have got, they want to get in the playoffs. So this is one they have to win.
Yeah, divisional rivalry or not, I know it does mean a lot, but when you're in the situation that the Bears are currently in with their franchise, the draft pick, I think, should mean more to them than beating the Lions. And Lions, like I said, that they've got a chance, haven't they, of qualifying for the playoffs. So they're going to be wanting to try and push for that and prove that how much they've improved year on year. So I think they'll win it. They've got some. They seem to have got a lot of their better players healthy now as well, so they're looking quite strong across all sections. They even looked quite strong at tight end last week as well. I thought you were going to give the odds for me. I thought you were going to come out. I know we spoke about it on the fantasy show, but you know,
he's Mr. Zylstra. Yeah. He's 3-1 anytime if you're interested. I am not.
Didn't think so. But, you know, it just seems like all the wide receivers have got healthy, all the running backs have got healthy, and they had a bit of production at the tight end. So I can't see them not as broken record as we are with the Bears every single week. I feel like you come out and say, it's Fields and Montgomery. It comes to me and I go, well, Cole Kmet might do something. And I feel like we can't just keep saying that. That's what it'll be. So Lions win. Like that one a lot, Williams especially. On to the next game. It's a bit of a nothing game again. It's the Broncos at the Chiefs.
Yeah, so the first thing that I saw when I looked at the Broncos Chiefs is the Broncos, they've got plus 12.5, and instinctively I tend to go towards them sort of bets because I just sort of think that's a hell of a lot of points to sort of like beat someone by. Having said that, we saw what happened with the Broncos last week, and it does feel like the defense has somewhat given up. It feels like they couldn't, you know, they've held out for so long this season, and they've just reached a point. I do feel they'll probably put in a better performance this week. I think they'll want to. It's a divisional rival again, and I just kind of feel that they are probably a bit embarrassed by what happened last week, and although it cost Hackett his job, I just think that they're gonna want to show that they're still a decent defense. So I'm kind of tempted at 10-11 for that, but I wouldn't get too excited. On the Broncos side, it feels very much like it's Jerry Jeudy is the only one that you can really sort of get excited about. He's 12-5, so he's a good price. He has missed a bit of practice this week, but they think he's going to play. So I quite like Jeudy at that price. There isn't really anyone else. You could go for Latavius Murray, but it doesn't really. I just don't think the offense is going to do much. The Chiefs, again, they're talking about being a broken record with the Bears. I mean, it's the same with the Chiefs. It's really difficult with these receiving options. And so I just steer away from them. It's just not worth trying because you just don't know where he's going to go. The only one I've got is McKinnon, just because he's getting so much more involved. He's 11-8, so it's a decent price as well for a guy who's getting not only involved in the running game, but also as a pass catching option as well. Feels like in the last few weeks that like Mahomes has definitely sort of like got going with him. And so, yeah, I really, really like McKinnon at 11-8. I think the Chiefs win it fairly comfortably. Like I say, instinctively, I always go for teams with big point starts, but it's the Broncos, isn't it? So.
It'll be really interesting to see if the Broncos come out and play to the level that we all thought they were going to play before the season started.
Yeah, it will be fascinating.
There could be some questions asked of why they kept hold of Hackett for so long, really, because they've got the ability and they've got the players to be up against these teams. It just really hasn't worked this year for them at all. Fully agreeance with you. And again, with the Chiefs, not only you say it's hard to pick which one it is, but they've added another one into the mix as well with Kadarius Toney coming back from injury now, and he was in the mix last week. So it literally is McKinnon is the safe option. I think he's been in the end zone the last 3 weeks, I think, consistently. So,
I mean, they're good prices if you can hit the right one. They are decent. Although looking at it, like Juju's 5-4, so he's really short. It's just not worth it. MVS is 7-4. It's because they're playing the Broncos, and obviously they conceded 50+ points last week. So that's why it's like it. But like, you know, your Kadarius Toney 3-1. It's a good price, but it's so hit and miss. It's just near impossible to pick on that particular one because Mahomes can just go to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be the hot hand as well, and it could be
Yeah.
Sky Moore, it could be anyone. On Kansas, just before we move on, Kansas City win for me. By the way, there was no upsets there. I know I said, what if the Broncos come out and play like we thought, but it's still Kansas win. Next game up, this is a bit of a juicy one. Like the look of this one, it's the Miami Dolphins at the New England Patriots.
Yeah, so this one is quite. It should be quite an interesting game. This one, given the fact that they are so. They're both going for the playoffs still. They're both really close. The over-under's 41, so they're not expecting a particularly high-scoring game. But even still, I think it'll be quite good. On the Patriots side, it's Ramondre Stevenson. And even then, because of the price is 20 to 21, I'm not really that excited about it. But if anyone's going to score, it's going to be him. There's not really anything else. I'm not that. It's a shame, really, because the Dolphins do struggle against the pass. Like you have been able to score on them. I don't really. I mean, any of them. It's just really difficult with Mac Jones at the moment. It's just not happening. And also the play calling is very run heavy. They don't want to go down that route. So I just don't see it. The Dolphins side, again, Tyreek Hill is 6-4. Yes, back it. This is the thing. I know they're away, but the Patriots defense, they're number one against giving up rushing touchdowns. They're tied 22nd against giving up passing touchdowns. And just because Tua's not playing, Hill was great when Teddy Bridgewater was in there for them couple of games earlier this season. At 6-4, he is a huge price for Tyreek Hill. You have to be going down that route. I do like Jalen Waddle as well. I feel like he's got a bit more involved in touchdowns in the last couple of weeks. He's 2-1, 15-8, that kind of price. But I think Hill is a massive price. That's the one to go on. And I quite fancy the Dolphins to get it. This particular one, I think I feel like it's a bit of an upset because they're away. But I do think that they will probably just about get there. If you look at the spread, the Patriots are -2.5 favourites. I quite like the Dolphins at +2.5 at 10-11, and then just the Dolphins to win at 5-4. So I do like the Dolphins to win it.
Yeah, I'm not. I feel like the Dolphins are playing the better football. I feel like they're probably the better team overall at the moment. As you said, it's really hard to predict what the Patriots are going to do outside the run game and them having a really good defense. So, and especially like you said, the play calling. You say it's run heavy. When it comes to throwing as well, Matt Patricia only likes to throw the ball sideways. He never lets them. The last few weeks, and doesn't let them throw it downfield. So. Although you said the Dolphins struggle in the secondary, they're not going to throw it into the secondary. So
no, and this is the thing, isn't it? So if you go based on the stats and you go through it all, they have to let Mac Jones throw it. They have to. It doesn't make sense not to, but they won't. So how does that work?
Grinding out an 8-8 record from never throwing the ball downfield, just relying on your defense scoring as well. I just really struggle with the fact that at this time of year, it's really hard to go to New England and win. Especially when the Dolphins aren't massively great with the run game. That isn't their area of expertise, although it has worked for them a little bit in the back end of the season since they've made some additions. But it's a tough place to go and win in December. And that kind of leans me towards the Patriots. I think it'd be a close game. Defense might hold out. So I'm going to go with the Patriots winning this one just because it's at home and no other reason. Because I think they're quite evenly split in terms of what specialities they've got. So it's a bit of a tough one, I think. First one we disagreed
it's tight. On. Yeah, it is a really tight one, that one.
Next game up, it's big one for me. It's the Colts at the Giants.
Yeah, we were talking about games that don't matter. I mean, this has got Giants win written all over it. If the Giants don't win this, God Almighty. really like Saquon Barkley in this game. Think everything matches to him. I think it's going to be tight. The over-under is about 39. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I can see it being like a 19-16, and we might be lucky if we get that. So, yeah, I like Barkley in this game at 5-6. I think he's got a very good chance of getting in. The wide receivers on the Giants side, it's difficult. It's that in a weird kind of way, it's the same as the Chiefs. It could go to anybody, so it is tough. Darius Slayton is 21-10. Isaiah Hodgins is 21-10. I feel like they're the two, maybe slightly more than Rich James, likely to score. So I would sort of like go towards that at 21-10. I think the Giants will win it. I have got nothing for the Colts. Nothing. It doesn't happen very often. We had one last week. I think it was the Commanders because they were away to the 49ers. But this week, there's nothing. There's just nothing. They're tanking. They are. They won't admit it, but we can say it, so it's all right. But I have no one. I mean, Nick Foles was awful, and I don't see that changing. And they're playing Zach Moss at running back, and he's awful, and that's not going to change. So I have nothing. Giants win.
I mean, you'd probably go as far to say that the only one who does have a chance at potentially getting in the end zone is Zach Moss, just because running backs do have a bit better chance if you get down towards the red zone, just sheer volume wise.
I'm not sure they will.
No.
I think it's going to be field goals.
Yeah, I think they're going to play well in the first half. Yeah. Prove that they could still play football a bit and then tank in the second half. I think that is exactly from them, because you can't just go out and tank from the get-go, can you? You have to play a little bit of football and try and show that you are trying to compete. But again, it's another one of those teams, like we said, where the draft pick means everything to them. The chance that they could get their next quarterback, was it 9 quarterbacks? So
yeah, I was going to say, do you think that this is finally the end of the veteran quarterback? Like, they've got themselves in such a position now where they're going to be able to draft a quarterback because it's gone so badly that this is finally it. This is the time when they do go out and draft one and pick up like probably not the number 1 pick, but certainly like they could trade up and get the number 2 or 3 and get a really good quarterback.
I mean, sat where they are in the draft currently with their record, like I said, don't win any more games.
Yeah,
they're in line to get whichever one they want of the second best quarterbacks coming out. Obviously, they're not going to get Bryce Young. He'll probably go with the number 1 pick. But if they like CJ Stroud or Will Levis, I think where they're currently sat at the moment and the people who are picking before them, big name defenders are going to be on the board. They're going to come off before the quarterbacks for the teams before them. So I think they've got their choice of their next quarterback. And if they like both of them, they'll definitely get one of them if someone sneaks above them. So they've got to. You can't, Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan. How many trials do you need with veterans to go, let's try something different? And they've got the chance to this year. They've never really been in a position to draft as high as this before, really, have they? Since Andrew Luck. So
they're very mid-range, aren't they? They tend, like, all this time they've been drafting these veteran quarterbacks. They've kind of gotten so many wins and kind of like they've been just in the playoffs or just outside the playoffs, and it's just kind of left them in a bit of a difficult position.
Yeah, it's a similar position, like we said, with the Steelers over the years, that they've always got a 500 record. You're never going to be high enough up the board to get the next big thing in quarterback. But this is the first time they're going to be, so they may as well take advantage of it. So fingers crossed, Giants win. I'm putting my money on Hodgins. I think he's the guy to get in the end zone for them. I think Richie James does a lot of the middle work. Slayton is the big play down the field over the top. Hodgins is a red zone guy for me. So I feel like Hodgins is the one to get in the end zone and win the money there. Win for the Giants. Yes, playoffs. No one ever thought that would happen before the season started. Next game up is the New Orleans Saints at the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, interesting one, this one, because obviously the Saints have been a bit of a disaster this year when it comes to their record, and the Eagles have been amazing. But the over-under's only 42. I think it's looking like Hurts is not going to play and that Minshew is going to be out there again. It feels a little bit like what would be the point of putting Hurts out a little bit. It's like they're going to be in the playoffs, whatever. So I know they want the number 1 seed, but still, they're at home. Personally, in this game, I'm not particularly keen on Miles Sanders. I think it's not really worked out particularly well for him in the last few weeks, mainly since Hurts hasn't been there actually last week and a couple of weeks before that. But I do like Devonta Smith. I think you got to kind of keep going with him at the moment. He's 7-4 in places, so I think you can get a decent price for him on that. Not mega keen on AJ Brown. I feel like he's being marked out a lot, and what's happening is that's why it's going to Devonta Smith. And you saw last week that Minshew is more than comfortable with Devonta Smith, so I quite like him at 7-4. Goddard is getting more and more involved, and so at 2-1, I think he's a decent price as well. On the Saints side, in theory, the Eagles have struggled a little bit against the run in the last few weeks. You would expect Kamara to have a pretty decent game, but we have been saying this all season, and it's just not really happening. He's 11-8 at the moment, so I kind of have to go with the process theory of logic suggests that he should score, but I don't know really on that one. And then the only one that I sort of looked at, and this is only if Olave isn't out there, because if Olave's out there, he's going to get all the targets. The only one that I was kind of interested in was Rashid Shaheed at 100-30. He gets a lot more involved when Olave's not out there. Landry's not around. I know Taysom Hill is, but 100-30. I think it's a good price for Shaheed if Olave is not out there. I think the Eagles win just because I think they're the better team and they've got better players that are fit at the moment. Quite like the over at 42, 10-11. I think then you might see some points. I think the Eagles might be able to put up quite a few points even with Minshew in this game.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to play and showcase himself to see if he can be a starter next season for someone else. He's got all to play for. He's a good character. Everyone seems to like him. So lot to play for him. I believe that this game for the Saints, if I was betting, I think it's got Taysom Hill written all over it. They struggle with the run, the Eagles, and I think it'll be Kamara followed by a lot of Hill in those sort of wildcat plays and rushing. So I think this could be the game to get on Hill, really, if you're having a little cheeky bet.
He's 2-1, so I mean he's a decent price. I just can't back it. It's too sporadic all over the place. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean it's entirely possible that they just take Dalton out and he bloody runs in, doesn't he, and stuff like that. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to get anything, I'd steer away from that secondary of the Eagles. It's that's not where you want to be throwing the ball, and running it up the middle where they're struggling a little bit is definitely the answer. And Hill's a big guy, so probably bigger than Kamara, isn't he? So get him up the middle. Next game up, interesting one. It's the Panthers at the Buccaneers. Didn't think we'd be saying that come week 17.
No, not at all. Yeah. This is basic. I mean, I don't think it quite is because obviously there's next week, but it's pretty much to win the division. This is it's a pretty big game, so I quite like it. I think it's definitely going to be one that's going to be worth looking at. I said on the discussion show we had this week, I can't see I don't want to see the Bucs in the playoffs. I just don't want to see it. They're atrocious. They just don't do anything. It's just all it's just dump off to Fournette. That's all it is. And so because of that, Fournette at 13-10 becomes a decent price. And I quite like the look of him for this game. The Panthers are tied 24th against rushing touchdowns. So I think that Fournette's a good shout. I do like Godwin. at 7-4 just because of the targets. He's averaging 10 targets a game, and you have to feel that at some point one of them is going to end up in the red zone. So I just feel like that Godwin is worth looking at 7-4. On the other side, the Panthers want to run the ball a lot, and Donta Foreman is kind of the main batter in Rams. So I just feel like that he's probably the one that you want to be looking at. You can get him at about 11-8 at the moment, so he's definitely worth looking at in this game. And then finally, I've kind of been going with this guy over the last few weeks, so we're not going to stop now. DJ Moore is currently at 11-5. Really like DJ Moore. Since Darnold's been back, kind of a little bit similar to what we were saying about Drake London and Desmond Ridder. Since Darnold's been in there, DJ Moore is seeing a lot more of the ball. 11-5 is a really nice price for him. I know he's going up against what is perceived as a good defense in the Bucs, but they're actually tied 25th when it comes to giving up passing touchdowns. So I think because of that, I would be interested in DJ Moore. I like the Panthers to win this. When I did the notes for this, they were +3. They're now +4, so that's even better. We'll have that at 10-11, 17-10 to win. I like them to win it.
Yeah, but they seem to have turned a corner now with Wilks at the head coach, and it's what a difference just changing the head coach can make, because that is the only thing that's changed. They've lost McCaffrey and changed the head coach. And they look like a different team, and they look like they're in games, and they look good. I struggle to write off the Bucs, and if they do get into the playoffs, are they going to be a viable contender just because it's the playoffs and it's Brady? I don't know. I also, the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I've seen Russell Gage's name pop up a lot more at the Bucs, and I know he's got the nod over Julio Jones this week to get in the lineup. So if it's not going Godwin's way, I think it might find its way to Russell Gage. I don't know. He's been in the end zone 3 times in the last 3 weeks, hasn't he? So
yeah, he has been around a lot more, and he's done a lot more recently. So I think it's definitely one that is worth having a look at with Gage. He's a good wide receiver. He was good in Atlanta, wasn't he? And it just kind of like, I think it was injury that's kind of messed up his season a little bit. He's 3-1 anytime. So yeah, I mean he's definitely a slightly bigger price. With the Bucs, they're just not scoring the points. That's the problem. So it's like you're not getting much from it. But I mean, yeah, he's not a bad choice.
Do you know what? I want to side with the Panthers with you. I want to see them win it. I want to see them turn it around and get there. I want that story. So for that reason, I'm going to go for them. But I am worried about the Bucs always just winning games and qualifying and somehow plucking something out. It's just the Brady factor, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
On to the next game. It's the Cleveland Browns at the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, this one's a bit of a.
If you don't say Commanders loss, then you're not a Packers fan, really, are you?
I know, true. I think this is a tough game to be that excited about, to be honest. It's the over-under's 40.5. I think it's going to be very tight. I mean, the Browns are 28th against rushing touchdowns, so Brian Robinson kind of looks interesting in that respect, but he is 20-21. He's quite short for that. The only other option really on the Commanders side that I quite like the look of is Jahan Dotson. I feel that he's got much more involved recently. Also, not only has he got more involved recently, at the beginning of the season when Carson Wentz was quarterback, he had a really good run at the beginning. He had a decent game last week when he came back in. I think he's going to probably have a good one. And for whatever reason, Carson Wentz seems to target him. Dotson's 2-1, so I think he's a good price. I'd rather be going for Dotson than McLaurin, who just seems to kind of get marked out of games. And I just feel like Wentz isn't comfortable going for them sort of throws. So that's why I think Dotson will do well. On the Browns side, I don't like the running backs. I don't like Chubb in this game. The Commanders' defense is tied 7th against rushing touchdowns. I don't really like Cooper because he's always awful away. So the only one that I kind of like the look of is Njoku. I think that he's, a big body receiver. He's 7'2". The Commanders have struggled a little bit against the tight end. I think they'll probably mark Cooper out of it a little bit. And I don't think Peoples-Jones is going to do that much. So I think Njoku's probably the guy. 7-2. It's a big price, but I think it's the one worth looking at. Unfortunately, I think the Commanders are going to win it.
Well, that means it's the Commanders that everybody wants people to lose, isn't it? They're the ones stopping people from getting in. I know the Packers need them to lose to get that spot. Browns are a tough team to play. They're not a pushover. I feel like they're of similar abilities at the moment. I'm not as impressed with the Commanders as everybody else has been over the last sort of 5-6 weeks. People have been saying, yeah, they're the one, they're the strong ones. They have had a bit of a drop off, and they've gone back to their old ways of just not really moving the ball enough in games. So I think this is going to be a really tight game. I think it's a tough one to call. I do think you're right in what you're saying about Nick Chubb. He just seems to have disappeared since Watson's been quarterback in that team, which is odd. And again, we've seen a bit more of Peoples-Jones than we have of Cooper as well since Watson's been in there. So I don't really know what's going on with them and what they can produce. I think you're right with the safe bet of Njoku. He's always a safe bet, isn't he? Unfortunately, I do think the Commanders will win this one. I do think they have the edge. But to make it interesting, give everybody their playoff hopes, so I'm going with the Browns to win this one. Browns to win, Commanders out, someone else in. Yes, please. Next game up, it's another interesting one. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans.
Yeah, well, it's a semi-interesting one, I suppose. I feel like this is the Jags should be winning this, to be honest. If they've got any sort of desire to be making it into the playoffs, then they need to be winning these sort of games. The Texans are currently 30th against rushing touchdowns. Really like Travis Etienne because of that. A lot of people were going, are they actually going to play their starters? But Doug Peterson came out and said that he's going to get their starters in there, keep it going, which, to be brutally honest, might be the reason that they end up going through and the Titans don't. So I think Etienne at 20-21, I think he'll have a big game. So he's definitely one to look out for. And then, to be honest, any of the options I think are worth having a look at. I mean, Christian Kirk is 6-4, Zay Jones is 6-4, and then Evan Ingram at 13-8. Ingram is probably the one I like the most, just because he seems to be very involved recently, and quite like the look of him. So I think that's a decent bet. They're -3. That's it. So at 10-11, I like that. I think they'll win. Again, I have nothing on the Texans side that is of any interest whatsoever. They've got Royce Freeman as a running back. That does not interest me at all. Brandon Cooks is meant to be playing, apparently, but he's been so in and out. I mean, he scored last week, so, he might score again. You never know. At 15-8. And then it's kind of like it could go to anyone. It really could. And I know that we've mentioned Akins a few times. He's 9-2, but these are all just like big prices for receivers that aren't going to do much. And I'm sure one of them will score, but I'm not going to be on any of them.
Names in a hat and pick one out if you fancy a bet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I'd be really, really shocked if Jags don't win this one. It puts them a game ahead of the Titans as well, doesn't it? And there's no reason why they shouldn't push for everything they can get and go as far as they can this season. They don't need to take the foot off the pedal and relax and say, we'll build for next year. Why not go for it? Go for it all. You've got Trevor Lawrence. He's been there and done it and won it. So in his career, like college career, high school career. So give him a chance again. He might do a Joe Burrow on us. So you never know. So yeah, I think the Jags win this one again. Agree with all your options. Etienne's always a great option, is he? And Ingram would have been my choice as well. Equally the same with the Texans. Don't see anything from them at all. I've even lost faith in Atkins a little bit over the last few weeks. He's not really been getting the targets or the share like he was when it was working for him. So
the only thing I would say for the Texans is they do still seem to be playing. Like, they are trying. I'll give them that, but that's about as much as I can give them, really. It's yeah. So I think one, like I say, one of them has scored, but God knows who.
Maybe not. Maybe it's a shutout. We don't know. Maybe it's just field goals. Just field goals for them. Just field goals for the Colts. That's
you never know. You never know.
You know, I'm sure you can get a bet on the kicker to score over a certain amount of points.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. And also, like, I don't know. I know you can get no touchdown scorer. I don't know if you could get no touchdown for one team. You might be able to. But yeah, I'm sure you could find it somewhere.
Next game up, not an interesting one. The 49ers at the Raiders.
See, it's weird you say that. It kind of is in a way. The 49ers should win it. Like, obviously, the 49ers, great defense, 6th against rushing touchdowns, tied 4th against passing touchdowns. They will continue to be amazing for this team and to a certain degree carry them. But I just feel like they will shut this Raiders team down pretty easily. Really, like, obviously CMC, but he's 8-13, incredibly short, so I wouldn't be going there myself. George Kittle, it's the one to go for. He's scored 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Kittle looks like the guy that Brock Purdy is going for all the time. I remember when this first happened, and I vaguely remember you coming out saying that you thought that Ayuk would still keep going and it wouldn't be a problem. Since the bye week in week 9, Ayuk's had 3 touchdowns. And I know that obviously that was with Jimmy Garoppolo as well, but definitely with Brock Purdy, it seems to have dropped away. Kittle is the one that I like at 7-5. I think he's going to carry on doing what he's doing, and the Raiders are not good against tight ends as well. So I think they, like CMC and Kittle, are the 2 to go for on the 49ers side. The Raiders side is actually really interesting which is probably the first time we've ever said that, but it is interesting because they've come out and they've obviously brought Jarrett Stidham in as the starting quarterback now. The whole point of this is to see the younger players and see what they can do. Now, Devontae Adams obviously isn't a younger player, but he's going to be out there. So he's 7-4. So he's probably the one that would be interested. They have sort of indicated that Josh Jacobs is going to start and that Josh Jacobs is going to be in their plans next year and that they want to re-sign him despite the fact that they haven't. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense because you know what he can do. So if you're going to re-sign him, why are you playing him? Now, he's 6-5 anytime. I like Jacobs. I think he's a good, I think he will see action. But the one that does interest me the most is Zamir White. He's the one that you feel like is going to get involved a lot more. Now, I'll have another quick look because last night he was 10-1 and he still is. So you can get him at 10-1. I think he's going to see some action on there. I know it's against one of the best defenses in the league and it's going to be very tough. But at 10-1, I think he's worth a little bet.
Yeah, he's the guy that everybody kind of thought was going to come in and take all the carries off of Jacobs, and the reason he wasn't re-signing and getting that big contract. He was great at Georgia, and I really thought Zamir White would make a bit more of an impact. He was the lead back at Georgia with James Cook being the passing catcher. So I think it's odd that he hasn't been used as much. So that if that does come through, that is some good working from you there. Do you think that there's been a little bit of rumblings and a little bit of chat that Devontae Adams doesn't want to play because obviously he went there to play with Carr? Carr's been benched. I know a couple of other players from around the league have said, "Don't play, mate." I wouldn't, and kind of give him the backing. Do you think that's going to be the case, or do you think he'll definitely be out there playing?
I think he'll probably be out there. I mean, he's got a massive contract there, hasn't he? It's going to be very difficult for him to suddenly sit out and throw a bit of a strop just because Derek Carr's not playing. So it's going to be a tough one. I mean, I can't see him going anywhere with that contract. I mean, who's going to suddenly take him on? You know, it's really difficult. So I don't see him moving. I don't see the Raiders being willing to let him go anywhere. So I think because of that, he's going to end up staying. And do you really want to start causing trouble in a meaningless game, which it kind of is for the Raiders now? So it just seems a bit petty and pointless if he was to do that. So I think he will be out there. Having said that, as we've said, this 49ers defense is so good that, I mean, like, they're kind of the options. They're the sort of stud players, aren't they? It's Jacobs and Adams that you kind of almost have to look at. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it doing much, and I think the 49ers will win it.
Perhaps just to annoy you and rub salt in the wounds a bit more, perhaps the Bears will come in and trade their second pick for Adams and get Adams.
You never know. Adams just to cheer me up a bit more. Yeah,
Adams goes to the Bears. The Raiders get a quarterback with the second pick. All it seems to be working out quite nice. Bears can afford him. 49ers win this one quite easily. I do have to give you a minute to process what I just said, just to settle it down. With the people resting, the people not playing, or whatever's going on, we said it on the fantasy show. There's a lot of rumblings that Renfrow might have a bit of a game. Can you see it at all?
No. Yeah, I mean, he might be involved more, but I wouldn't be backing him. Like I say, apart from the two main guys and then Zamir White just as a bit of a punt, I don't really see much more coming from that up against this defense. That's the problem. It's the defense. The 49ers is the problem.
Yeah, definitely. Kittle, I will be on it anyway. Been liking putting him in my bets over the last 3 or 4 weeks, so it seems to be working quite well. So I'll be back in a treble or a double or something, I'm sure. Next game up is the New York Jets at the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, now an interesting game. Both teams going for the playoffs still. And we have Mike White back at last. So Garrett Wilson becomes a bet again. 11-8. Garrett Wilson, get on it. Another one that's also worth having a look at, Tyler Conklin at 3-1. In the last 3 Mike White games, he's had 17 targets. So I think because of that, you have to look at Conklin at 3-1. Knight has struggled these last few weeks, and it's been a bit of rough going for him, but he's 7-5, so he's a slightly bigger price than what he has been. And I just think this whole offense it's ridiculous to say, but this whole offense does improve so much with Mike White there. And they're going up against the Seahawks defense that is not great. They're tied 22nd when they give up passing touchdowns, 29th giving up rushing touchdowns. I think all 3 of them options are good. I think they've all got a chance of getting in. And the one I really like is Wilson, but I think they've all got a chance. On the Seahawks side, the one area of the Jets defense that you can get at a little bit is the run. Walker is 20-21. It's been a bit of a rough few weeks for Walker, and it's a short price, so I'm not massively keen on it, but he is there at 20-21. If Tyler Lockett plays, he's 6-4. He's worth putting out there. I know the Jets are number 1 against the pass, but still, Lockett is he's been on a run, and if he's out there, he's going to be worth picking up at 6-4. I like the Jets to win it. I like them at -1.5. I know they're away, but I just think that defense is so good. And finally, we've got Mike White back, and Garrett Wilson is alive again.
Well, yeah, I think I would improve that offense if I went in there instead of Zach Wilson. So, any improvement there is great. And that's what we've been saying week in, week out, that they just need a bit more improvement in that position. And Mike White gives it them. So I feel like the team around him, defense, wide receivers, running backs, are all good enough and stronger than the Seahawks for me. So I would be going down the Jets route of things for this game. The only thing I will say, it does look like Lockett's going to play. I know he's had an operation on his finger, one of them.
Yeah.
And that might hinder him a little bit, but Sauce Gardner can only mark one of Lockett or Metcalf. He can't mark both of them. And for me, they're both equally as good as each other. So I think it might be an in-play bet for you for that one. Find out who he's marking. I would have thought he'd probably be marking Metcalf.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
So I definitely, if Lockett's out there, be putting my money on him because, like I said, you can't mark both of them, and they are both wide receiver ones in my eyes. So that would be my bet for that. But yeah, can't move away from the Jets now that Mike White's in there. They're an easy win for me. I think they're quite a strong team when he is in there. So yeah, easy for me. Next game up, the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, interesting game. The Packers trying to get into the playoffs, so desperately need to win this one. There's quite a few players actually in this game that are worth looking at. The over/under is 47.5. I think it's the second or the third. It might be the third highest of the week. So at 10 to 11, I think the over's got a good shout. Aaron Jones is dealing with an injury at the moment. We're not 100% sure if he's going to play, and if he does play, how much he's going to play. They seem to be moving towards Dillon a lot more recently. So 6 to 5, I think Dillon's a good shout. It's a similar thing with Watson. Don't know whether he's going to play as well because of the hip injury. He's 6 to 5. If he's out there, and before the game when he's out there, then 6 to 5 is a good price for him. A lot of people are saying Lazard. I feel like Lazard hasn't really got. He's getting more involved, but he's not a touchdown scorer so much. I think he's more moving the chains. He's 7 to 4, so I think he's an okay price. I wouldn't be against going for him. But if Watson isn't out there, then Romeo Doubs is probably the one to really be going for at 11 to 4. It's a bigger price. I think Rodgers trusts him. I think he's just going to see a lot more action, and it's been getting more and more as he's come back from injury. So really like the look of Dobbs for that 11 to 4. Going against a Vikings defense where they're tied 16th against giving up passing touchdowns, but they're 32nd when it comes to giving up yards. They do give up a lot of chunk plays, and so therefore are likely to give up a touchdown or two, as we've seen with the Colts. And who did they play last week? Was it the Lions? Or no, it wasn't, was it? I can't remember. But whoever they played, they gave up quite a few points in it. I think they're likely to do it. So therefore, Watson and Dobbs become interesting because of that. On the Vikings side, it's a little bit difficult. The Packers are actually favourites for this game. I think the reason being is that although the Vikings are doing so well this year and they're going for the number 1 seed, it is Kirk Cousins. It is outside in Lambeau in a game where I know it's not like Sunday night football or Monday night football, but it is kind of like the afternoon, the main game that's on a lot of TV. So I think there is a concern for him because of that. Where the Packers struggle a bit, they're tied 24th against rushing touchdowns. So Dalvin Cook at 20 to 21, I think is probably worth having a look at. Jefferson obviously is always worth having a look at, but I'm not, because of the price. He's 21 to 20. He did really well in week 1 against the Packers, but I don't see them giving that up as much this time. The concern for me, because of that, I think what's going to happen, and this is kind of why I really like this bet, I think Jefferson, I don't know if he'll necessarily be marked out of the game, but I think there'll be a lot of focus on it. TJ Hawkinson at 15 to 8, I think he's the bet for this game. I think he's a very good bet. He did well last week. I can see that happening again. He's always getting about 7+ targets every game from Cousins. So at 15 to 8, I really like him. We're going to have a Packers win. Come on.
Whoa. Yeah, it's a good matchup for you. I think you've got the talent to get the ball over the top, which is where their weakness is. Really glad that you brought up who they played last week. Thanks for rubbing that in a little bit more for the 60-yard
Was it you?
field
It
goal
was, wasn't it?
as the clock expires. Yeah, so that was thanks for letting me relive that. But yeah, we say week in, week out, they can be beat over the top, and you've got some young, fast guys on your team. And Dylan, I think, looks good since he's been having a bit more of the ball. He looks, he's running aggressive. So it's a good matchup. I've always had a few question marks about the Vikings. I've always said it's just Jefferson and that's it. So I'm going to side with you. I'm going to go with the Packers to win this one. I think you've hit a bit of a good form and a streak, and it's against a team that you'll want to go out there and smash them. It's one of those fixtures I've always said. You get more out of your team when you play against them just because of the rivalry with it, really. So, and it's at home, so you're winning this one, and you're making the push. So, if my Commanders' loss comes in as well, you're still there for it. Next up, it's the two LA teams. It's the LA Rams against the LA Chargers. Which of the LA teams do you like the most?
No one is away here. They're both at home, so we got no problems with this. So personally, I quite like the Chargers for this one. I think although the Rams did well last week against the Broncos, it was the Broncos, and we all know what's happened there. So I kind of like the Chargers for this one. I think they've got the better all-round team at the moment with the better players on there. Having said that, the Rams defense is still decent. It's still doing well. It's still holding up despite the fact that Aaron Donald isn't there. So that it's going to be tough for them. But the slightly weaker area for the Rams defense is they give up passing touchdowns. Not loads, but it is a little bit weaker than the rush. I really like Keenan Allen at 13-10. I think that's a good price. And then Mike Williams, I think they've got to get him more involved. He's very boom or bust, and at 7-5, it's not a particularly big price for a boom or bust kind of guy. But I do think that he's got a good chance in this particular game, because I think most people will mark Allen out. That they'll try and mark Allen out the game. I don't think they will, but I think they'll try to do it, and so therefore Williams becomes more available. On the Rams side, we've said this for ages with the Chargers defense. You can run against them. You've always been able to run against the Chargers defense. They're a little bit better than what they were, but they're still kind of mid-table, to be honest. Cam Akers is just hit a bit of a run, isn't he? He really has. He's getting a lot of the ball. At 13-10, I think he's a decent price for this game. I could see him getting in. And then the only other one really on the Rams side, and this is purely because he went mental last week, so there's a good chance that he'll keep doing it, because the Chargers are not great against the tight end, is Tyler Higbee at 15-4. I think Baker Mayfield hasn't got anyone else to throw to, and so that's what's happening here. So Higbee's getting it. It's finally come to the point where Higbee's actually seeing a bit of the ball, and at 15-4, I think he's worth a punt. So I think there are some options in this game. It feels a bit of a dead one, to be honest. I think it's not really that interesting, and I think the Chargers will win it, not by a lot, but a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's a team that are out against a team that's already clinched a wild card position. Yeah. So I just feel like the Chargers, they can't take the foot off the pedal at this point. It's one of those games, if you relax now, that could ruin your trajectory into the playoffs. So I feel like they've still got to go out there and they've still got to, play well, win this game. I do think they'll win it quite comfortably. I'm just not really seeing enough from the Rams, like you say, when all your wide receivers are injured on IR and you've lost a couple of pieces on the defense. It's a tough game to play against a Chargers team that has on its day been producing the goods. So I'm going to steer towards the Chargers for a win in this one. Just think they'll edge it. It could be a close game. I think it's not going to be a blowout or anything by any such, but definitely like the Chargers for it. 2 more games to go. The next one up is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens.
How is this Sunday night football? How is this? I mean, it's unbelievable. This was genuinely, when I was looking through this, I almost came out with nothing. This would have been the very first one where I would have come out with nothing. That's how depressing this game is. The Ravens defense is pretty solid. They're tied 7th against passing touchdowns and rushing touchdowns. They're a pretty solid unit and have done pretty well this season. Because of that, I find it really difficult to get that involved with anyone on the Steelers side. The only one that I'm going to mention really is Najee Harris. He's 15-8. He got 9 targets last week. I think you're starting to see a bit of the old, what we were expecting for most of this year. I think Pickett has kind of worked it out that if I just dump it off to him, he'll probably do something for me. So I think at 15-8, Najee Harris is worth looking at. I would like to say Deontay Johnson, just purely because I think that Johnson is getting more targets and he's 3-1, but he's going up against a really strong Ravens defense. So I'm not really that bothered by it. But Harris, I like at 15-8. On the Ravens side, it's really, really tough to find anything. J.K. Dobbins came out and said that he's only running on one good leg. That's not good for a running back. Even I can work that out. I feel like he's not fully fit, and Gus Edwards isn't getting enough. I kind of feel like Edwards is a bit like Dylan. He needs that extra keep on going in order to make an impact. And he's not getting the game time because Dobbins is out there as well. And you're going up against the Steelers defense that are second against giving up rushing touchdowns. I don't like any of them in this particular game. The one area that you can exploit on the Steelers is that you can get them in the past. They're tied 29th against passing touchdowns. But Tyler Huntley has not been great. Mark Andrews has not been great because Lamar Jackson isn't out there. So 21-10, it's a massive price for Andrews, but I don't really feel like I want to go there. I feel like the best way to score against the Steelers is over the top. So we're going to go for one massive, ridiculous price of 11-2 on Deshaun Jackson. That is what we are going for in this game. Just in the attempt to find anything for you lot. That's it. Deshaun Jackson at 11-2. This has got 16-14, which was the score in their last game. It's got it written all over it again. And it's a field goal win. That's what it is. And it's difficult. I'm going to go for the Ravens because they're at home.
Wow.
And also, yeah, I'm going to go for the Ravens because you're going to go for the Steelers. So,
yeah, I am. I am. Still rooting for them to have a winning record for the season again, which is entirely possible when they've got the Ravens and the Browns left to play. So it's still on for them to have a winning record. It's a good legacy. So I'm going to side with the Steelers. Really like what Najee Harris has been doing the last few weeks. He's had a real strong end to the season. And he'll be the difference maker. There's just not, like you say, there's just not really anything being produced by the Ravens, is there? Whereas I think there will be from the Steelers. Good defense, and there's a couple of pieces you like in the receiving game. Deontay Johnson's he's a consistent option, even if he doesn't get in the end zone. So I just feel like they're going to be able to move the ball with those guys, and it will be Harris, I think, is the guy that gets the touchdown. So I think you're right in that. And I'm going to side with the Steelers. So nothing new there from me.
It's a really rough game. But if you do want to go down the Steelers route, you can get +2 at 10-11. They're 6-5 to win. They are the underdogs in this game. The over under is 35. That's how bad this game is. So it's how is this Sunday night football?
Well, at least we're ending the week 17 with a good game. It is probably the best game of the weekend as well. The Buffalo Bills at the Bengals. That's definitely the one everyone wants to watch. Yeah,
so this one, it's the second highest on the over under. The Lions game is higher, but this is over 49.5. I quite like it. I don't particularly like the running backs in this game. I don't like on either side. I'm not really that keen. The thing that we've got in this game, and this is where, although I say I like the over, both sets of defenses are pretty decent as well. So the Bills are tied 7th against rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns. The Bengals are tied 11th against rushing touchdowns, and they are 6th against passing touchdowns. So both sets of defenses are very good. It's going to be, I think because of that, it's going to kill the run a little bit. I think what we're going to end up in is almost like a shootout where maybe for the first quarter, not a lot happens. And then probably Joe Burrow comes out and goes, right, that's it. I'm going to go for it. And then Josh Allen is going to go, well, see what I can do as well. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen. Because of that, all the receiving options are really good choices. Jamar Chase is 21-20. If you can get Chase at odds against, he's worth betting on. T. Higgins, who we really love, 6-4, great option as well. So really like T. Higgins. Not very keen on Tyler Boyd. I feel like he's kind of disappearing a little bit. And the reason that he's disappearing is that Trenton Irwin is getting more and more involved. He's had 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks. He had 2 last week. At 4-1, I think that you're starting to see him get more involved, get more of the ball. So I think at 4-1, he's a really good price. But the Bills, Stephon Diggs hasn't been very well this week, has he? Hasn't he got illness or something? But I think that even still, he's going to be fine. He's going to play. Again, 21-20, a little bit like Chase. If you can get odds against, he's worth looking at. Gabe Davis at 13-8. This has got Gabe Davis written all over it, this game. You just know that there's going to be just that one chunk play and he'll be there. So at 13-8, I think he's a good price. And then the only other guy on the Bills side that I quite like the look of is Dawson Knox. I think that he's getting more involved. He's certainly looking like he's becoming more of a trusted option for Allen in the last few weeks. And so at 11-5, I think he's a good price as well. I really like all of them. Unfortunately, they both can't win. I'm going to go for the Bengals. I'm going for the Bengals partly because they're at home, but also I just feel like they've got something going at the moment. And even the games that they sort of like last week, they started off really well and then kind of gave up on it, but still managed to get that win and just keep ticking over. I think you're going to see that in this. I think they're definitely a team that can win either way. And I think that's why they'll probably nick this one.
Yeah, I've already had the conversation yesterday with Byron. He already asked me what my thoughts were on this game. So I've had a bit of a chat about this one. And I was on the Bengals side. I think I really struggled to move off the Bengals. I think during this game, there's going to be pressure on both these young quarterbacks. One of them we've seen plays well under pressure, can come back, delivers, wants the pressure almost, wants to put the game on his back and win the game. And that's Joe Burrow. With Josh Allen, he's got all the talent and he is a great quarterback. But when he's under pressure, I've seen him waver a little bit and try to do too much on a couple of occasions. So I'm going to steer towards the Bengals for this one. I do think it's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to watching it. And isn't it nice to hear you say Trenton Irwin, a name that I brought up 3 weeks ago? And you kind of were like, what are you on about? And now he's come a viable bet, which comes, this is,
I just want proof. I just want to see it. I'm not gonna back a guy who I've not seen, am I? So I want to see it. I want to see what he can do. Because this is the thing. It's
more than you.
Yeah, but what are you like? What were you getting from him? Because he wasn't really involved that much. So is this from college?
No, it's surely what I saw from him over the last sort of, about 3 weeks ago. I just saw the ball going towards him more. He's being involved and he's being trusted to have the ball thrown towards him in the plays that are meaningful. When I see that and I see that he's not just getting the third read options and there is plays that are designed to go to him, that's when I start going, hang on, this guy's going to be a viable option in a couple of weeks, 1 week, see what he does a bit more. And that's how I read it. And that's what I saw from him. And he was they're trusting him more, they're throwing him the ball more. They were giving him the targets in the end zone as well and towards the end zone, some of the big plays. So that always stemmed to me that he's going to be good.
Yeah, I think the other thing with him is that I think it's helped that Hayden Hurst has been out and has kind of disappeared a little bit, hasn't he?
Mhm.
I think that's really made a big impact for him because he is quite a big guy. He's almost
Yeah.
like a tight end.
Well, I said that to you
So
when I first saw him play. Obviously, I didn't know much of him out of college. I thought he was a tight end. The
yeah,
stature, the way he plays, but no, he's a wide receiver, and I just thought he's going to take a bit more of that role. So yeah, it's good to see him finally coming through. But yeah, Bengals for me for the last game. Hopefully, we'll see more of. Everyone always talks about the Burrow versus Mahomes as a bit of a legacy, but I think we'll also see it with Josh Allen as well and Burrow. I think that's quite a nice little legacy to follow as well. That's all the games of Week 17. It's also the last show of 2022. We will be back in 2023. Just
we
next
will.
week. But Happy New Year, Adam. Happy New Year to all the listeners. Hope you all have a good night. Don't get too drunk because there's lots of football to watch the next day. So,
Do you want my trebles or not?
no, I don't want it. Yes, please
No?
give me your troubles.
Oh, you do want the trebles? Oh, okay, cool, right. Early games, we are going for DJ Moore, Jerick McKinnon, and Tyreek Hill at 18-1, and
Right
then
on.
the late games, Garrett Wilson, George Kittle, and TJ Hawkinson at 15-1.
I'll be on both of them. I may have some of my own little ones, my little sneaky ones, but they sound like
we had a 10-1 winner last week on Christmas Eve. So you all got a Christmas present. So that was nice. It's from me to you. So there you go.
I've got a feeling we're now up to 10, 11 wins of 17 weeks. So
I don't think it's quite that many, but it's not far. It's not far.
In the trebles, I think it's at 8, and I think we've got a couple of singles that we've mentioned across the show that have come in that were quite high prices and things like that. So it's going well. I really like those bets. They're more my odds. I like the higher odds and all like that. But, that's all we've got time for. As I said, Happy New Year. Do you want to say it back to me, Adam? You wanted to get
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
I did say yes, but Happy New Year.
Thank you for listening. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll see you next week.